Okay, welcome again. We're going to look at Mounce Chapter 8 today. This deals with prepositions and introduces us to our first verb, and that is the verb to be, the verb a me. It's the connecting verb I am, you are, he, she, or it is. And so that's we'll meet the rest of the verbs a good bit later on. But right now, we meet this one because it's used so frequently, and it'll just make things easier for you. So what we're going to do is look at the chapter as we normally do to try to give you a little bit of overview. If you have any questions about it, please don't hesitate to send us an email, and we'll try to get back to you on it. First thing I want you to notice is the exegetical insight. This one is done by Craig Blomberg, and so I think you'll enjoy it. It's just a read-only thing, just to give you a little background that you pick up along the way. And then, if you will note the English section, it also is, as usual, very helpful in just reviewing a little bit of Greek grammar, and then then you're going to move to the Greek section. I want to remind you while we're passing here about Mounce's website. It's either Learning Biblical Greek, or you can still use the technia.com. That's in the process of changing, but right now it's still active, so you can consult either one of those and get some good, helpful information in learning Greek. So let me remind you of that. Then I want to call your attention to the Greek characteristics of prepositions. Prepositions there are a number of them. They're not all that difficult to learn. I would suggest to you, if you flip over right now to page 61, you will see something that's going to be helpful. We'll talk about it a little bit more, but I just want to mention while I'm thinking about it that if you'll learn these directional meanings of the preposition from this chart, if you keep that chart handy, it will help you a great deal. The other thing that you really need to learn about prepositions is how the meaning changes as the prepositions are used with different cases, and Mounce will introduce you to that as well. So I'll read carefully what he talks about in the characteristics and how to translate prepositions. Again, he mentions flashcards. He's saying do one for each preposition. It always seemed more helpful to me to use the 3x5 cards, but that, of course, is up to you. You can certainly use that. There is another section here. It's on page 58, and it has to do with dependent clauses. This is extremely important in learning something about grammar. It's true in both English grammar and in Greek grammar, and that is the dependent clauses are words that depend on the rest of the sentence for the meaning. You have a main clause, and sometimes you have dependent clauses in sentences. Every sentence has to have a main clause. Every sentence does not have to have dependent clauses, but most of them do in the complex way that we communicate. And the Greeks had the same situation. One of the basic things to remember is that the main subject and verb is always going to appear in the main clause, not in the dependent clause, and that'll be very helpful in helping you to look at translation and exegesis. You come now to the halftime review, and I just want to remind you to take a look at that because that is helpful. And then we meet the Greek verb eimi, and it is a verb that, as I said, is a connecting verb. We'll meet many of the rest of them way later on, but right now we want to introduce this one to you. You want to notice the basic verbal grammar that Mounce introduces you to. Note especially section 8:11 for that, and then note especially the 8:12 where you have the paradigm. Again, this is something you just need to memorize, and I would encourage you also to put it in your notebook, make a copy of it, and put it in your notebook. Also, section 813 is one of those situations where Mounce throws in something that is very important along the way because it applies specifically to this verb, the spelling of this verb. And he talks about the movable nu. Now, you'll read that the movable nu has to do primarily with pronunciation, so just read carefully what he says and make sure you get a grip on that. Also note that he introduces you to one past tense form of a me. We'll get the past tense of that later on, but in section 814 he introduces you to that one because it's pretty common and you're going to see it. And then 815 is a section about the predicate nominative. That's the other use of the nominative, used as a predicate nominative or predicate adjective. And that simply completes the thought when a connecting verb like a me is used. You would say, I am a man. I is, of course, the subject. Am is the verb, which would be equivalent to a me, and then a man would be the predicate nominative, and that completes the thought of what I am. So you will see that, and that becomes very, very important. Then he talks about translation in 816 and 817, and then gives you the summary of the chapter. Remember to use that as a review, so that if you don't understand something, you go back and right now, if you go back and go over it again, then it'll stick with you a little bit better. Then he talks about vocabulary, and that's where you see the preposition chart. You see the directional meaning based around that circle. You have, in and around and under and over and all of these directional meanings. If you get the directional meaning of the preposition, then you're a long way toward understanding what the meaning of the preposition is. It does vary a little bit used with different cases, but you'll pick that up as you go along. And then notice the vocabulary. We want to repeat that, and I want you to be able to get a good grip on that, because you're going to need it by Saturday night when you do the quiz. So let me pronounce this, if I might, and I encourage you to pronounce it after me so that you can get a little grip on it. And then I'll tell you about an app, if you have an iPhone or smartphone of some kind, that one of the students has introduced us to, and I think it is very helpful. Well, let me pronounce this now. Allah, that's a strong adversative. It means but or yet or except as it's used. Apo is one of those prepositions. Then dia and emi, that's the verb that you're introduced to. Ek is a preposition. It sometimes appears as x with xi or c, but it is, again, a pronunciation issue, and you can read about that as you look at your exercises. You'll begin to note that. Then hemera is day. Ain is he was or she was or it was, depending on the context and the situation. And then thalassa, which is the word for sea or lake. Thanatos is death. And then hina, you meet that word in this lesson. And then Ioannes, which is John. Lego is another verb. You'll learn that later on, but you're just getting the vocabulary at this point. It means I say or I speak. Meta, preposition. Oikia is a noun that means house, and oikos also means house. And then aklos is a noun that means crowd or multitude. Para is another preposition. And then parabole is the word for parable. You'll note the similarity there. Pros is to or towards, and then the preposition hupo. So you will, when you learn these, you will be at 51.38% of the word count in the New Testament. So you're making good progress, and I think that's as far as he goes in this chapter. Now let me turn to the exercises, if I might. The exercises begin on page 19 in the workbook, and you want to do the parsing as usual. Then you want to do the warm-up exercise. Again, these are not graded, but they are for your benefit. It does help you a little bit. And then you want to translate sentences 1, 3, 5, 8, 9, and 10. 1, 3, 5, 8, 9, and 10. And then when you do that, you want to save your document as a Word document and upload that to assignments, and you need to do that by Wednesday at midnight. Now, just to remind you of your quiz, which will be coming up on Saturday night. There may be more detail in the next video, but I just want to remind you that you need to learn that vocabulary and you need to learn the paradigm for a me. You just need to memorize that. So just go ahead and do that while you're at it, and everything will work out great. All right, that's it for chapter 8, and next video will be on chapter 9. Thank you.